7 months. That's how long David was just out here in society walking around after the body of Celeste was found in the front trunk of his Tesla. Rest in peace to Celeste. Justice is definitely coming, and I'm very, very hopeful that after all is said and done, after all the nonsense, after all the ridiculous defenses and victim blaming, David is going to get absolutely cooked, and he's either going to get life in jail without the possibility of parole or the death penalty, and he will be potentially a groundbreaking landmark case as far as justice goes in California. That's all to come, okay, in the next months and years. We're going to find out exactly what's going on with that. But for now, what I want to do is take a look back at a very interesting aspect of this story, this 7 months that he was basically just out here walking around, living his life in this luxury, another luxury Hollywood property. Must be nice. Okay, and there's a really interesting thread going around Reddit right now that kind of looks back on some of those things, and I'm finding it really interesting, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. So this post is going around. Now look, I'm having a bit of a beef with r/DaveIdiots at the moment, okay? I called out the sub for being compromised. It seems like 3-4 months ago, this was kind of a nice open discussion, open forum for having discussion about this case. It seems like as of the last few weeks or month or so, it seems like the subreddit has been co-opted by a lot of people who very suspiciously want to defend David. Now, if you want to know more about that, go and watch the video that I posted a few hours ago about how they're basically hushing up and silencing other victims of David from being able to speak on this subreddit, as well as sharing some absolutely absurd defenses of David, including the possibility that he might... that he might just be able to plea out for a misdemeanor charge of just moving the body. Like, absolute ridiculous stuff going on in there. Go and check that video out. Some of the defenses these guys are putting on David in this subreddit are absolutely unhinged. But for now, I'm going to talk about this thread, and I don't feel like this thread is too bad. I didn't see too many unhinged David defenders on here running defense for the man himself. But anyway, this says, what was David doing between the body being found and his arrest? The decomposing remains of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez were found on September the 8th, 2025, in the front trunk of an impounded Tesla at a tow yard in Los Angeles, California. Her remains were officially identified by the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner on September the 16th, 2025. On September the 17th, 2025, LAPD investigators executed a search warrant at Hollywood Hills property occupied by Burke and seized electronic devices, including a computer. David cancelled the remainder of his Withered 2025 World Tour on September the 19th, 2025. Now, this is interesting because I think looking back, things actually do make a lot of sense, but at the time it was like, why hasn't he been arrested? Why has nothing been done? Well, it seems like literally the day after her remains were identified by the medical examiner, they were searching his property. The day after, they went round the next day, and then within 2 days he was cancelling his tour. It was just a chaotic mess. But he didn't get arrested until the 16th of April, 2026, a full 7 months after Celeste was discovered. And interestingly, just before the 1-year anniversary of the alleged murder. Now, I wonder if he was thinking, like, oh my God, like, it's going to be nearly a year since I did this. And nope, he got arrested within basically a week before the anniversary. Exactly a week before the anniversary, actually. Wonder if that was intentional. Anyway, it says, what was David doing in this time? Was he active online? I know his electronic devices were seized by investigators, so I can't imagine he was still streaming or gaming. Was he seen out and about around LA, or did he mostly remain in hiding? Did he hang out with friends, or did they all distance themselves from him? Now, I talked a lot about this at the time. So this is kind of a bit of a retrospective, but I do notice a lot of people commenting things recently being like, oh, you didn't talk about Gus, you didn't talk about this, bro. I've talked about everything to do with this case. I don't think anybody's talked about this case as much as me. I think we all know that that's the case. And so I think there's a few things that I've covered in this situation that have maybe slipped a few people by. But at the end of the day, I just want to make it very clear, like a lot of the stuff people are asking me to cover, I have covered before. I have talked about this before, but I think it's good to look back now with the benefit of hindsight and everything we learned in these preliminary hearings, because it gives a lot more context to what was potentially going on. And I think when we get to trial, there's going to be even more context. I think we're going to be hearing about, wiretaps. We're going to be hearing about, all these other things that were essentially kind of going on behind the scenes, that with the context of everything that we're going to hear in court, I think is going to end up being extremely helpful. And it's going to explain why a lot of things happened that were unexplained thus far. So I find it interesting this is the top comment, right? Because I wonder how much info there is on this or how founded this is. But I do believe it. It says he was unfollowing people that unfollowed him. People saying he forgot Asia. I'm wondering why now. People saying, actually, I think his following went down from being blocked by people that he followed. People saying, I'm sure some of them blocked him, but David would unfollow them hours later after they unfollowed him. People saying, which is so unhinged. It's like, bro, a dead body was found in your car. Mind you, he made a song that's eerily similar to this very situation. Like, what did bro expect to be in his feelings is ridiculous, but so on par for an arc. People are saying, I heard his Fortnite account was still active during that time. I did hear that too. Said this bum was playing video games. They said, to be fair, what else could have been done other than be a bum? Son was essentially ostracized by society, lol. Watching movies, bed rotting, playing Fortnite, and door dashing are going to be the last memories he'll have as a free man. Good to know Celeste will live rent-free in this idiot's head while he rots. I can only imagine the feeling that the other shoe was going to drop any time and he'd be screwed like he is. He's never getting out of prison, and given his age, he's got a long time to think about why he's there. Playing video games and reviewing films. All right, so staying at home as he would have been getting watched by LAPD. Looking at Reddit, I wouldn't be surprised if he was. People saying while paying off mods to delete bad comments on the other two subs. Says there were reports from his neighbors that he was throwing parties until he was arrested. Said, oh my god, yes, journalists on local news said the house was known to have parties. Didn't he make them all sign NDAs at the door? People saying quite possibly, probably even took their phones since there's no evidence on social media as far as I know. I'm really curious to know who was partying with him though. Bunch of dumb kids. Who else know? Who knows? Minors, potentially. I doubt that though. He could have just been bumping music pretty loud. I mean, who would want to show up to a David party mid-investigation into the death of his minor girlfriend? I think his friends, the ones he had left, just remained online and knew better than to publicly associate with publicly known child killer. I don't know, man. Well, a private party isn't really associating publicly with him. With his level of fame and fortune, I wouldn't be surprised if he still had people who would hang out with him even during that period. I'm sure he did his best to convince everyone around him he's innocent. They're saying his level of fame and fortune dropped almost immediately when it was announced Celeste's body was found in his car. I mean, Cat's Eye and all these big name people who followed him began unfollowing him almost immediately thereafter. Like the other person said, people hear loud music and associate parties. They see a few cars in the driveway, a few people arrive in Ubers and think it's a house party. But in reality, it was likely a select group of people on his team, family, all trying to figure out why the dead body of the girl he was known to be seeing was found in his freaking car. I just seriously doubt people are showing up to party with someone they don't even want to be seen associating with on socials. If a follow is bad, showing up to a party he throws would be way worse. So some people saying it was just loud music, all that kind of thing. Things that are confirmed. He was making music on BandLab, including a gospel album. That's a joke, isn't it? A gospel album. Him and Krishawn Rock could have teamed up on a gospel album since they love God so much. He was talking to people on Instagram, close friends, collaborators, etc., talking to them about God and the Bible. He was still active on Discord, being online and lurking after the body was found. He was found watching and reviewing movies on his Letterboxd account confirmed in his leaked DMs, and he fell into a deep depression. Good. Things that aren't confirmed. David doing drugs, David looking at his subreddits, David talking about Celeste or making references to her. I've heard about this Letterboxd profile, and this is actually insane. Watched 8th of April. This is insane. Should we? There's only 3, but should we read his reviews while we're here? Since we know that this is actually something that he was doing while he was basically waiting around. Is there a diary? He was sat watching movies non-stop. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. Jesus. So he signed up in November. So I guess he came off tour, like, he only started, the history only started, this is insane. This is actually nuts. I can't believe there's this much here. D4VD, that's insane. So we watched After Hours, The Irishman, Dallas Buyers Club, One Battle After Another, that's a good film, I just watched that the other day. Rye Lane, Raging Bull, Fantastic Four, Twinless, The Threesome, The Fighter. So he's watching, wait a minute. So he's literally, let's be real here, right? These movies are what, like 2-3 hours a piece. How is it even possible he sat here watching this many films in a row, unless he's ticking them off? But it sounds like he was literally just sat watching movies all day, every day. It says day 3. He logged 5 entries for films on January 3rd. I wonder if he sat there watching these films, just sat there watching movies all day long, because he can't have watched this many films on the 2nd. So I guess he signed up during this time and added all these films. So these are all the films that he's watching. The Prestige, Memento. He's got Memento in there twice for some reason. 12 Angry Men. I bet he was watching 12 Angry Men. If you know, this is all about a jury. All right. I bet he was watching 12 Angry Men. Trust me, he's going to have 12 Angry Men in front of him in a minute, deciding his fate. Collateral, Wake Up, Dead Man, The Apartment. I can't say I know all of these, but this is very, very interesting. It kind of builds up a very damning picture of him just sat at home watching Letterboxd films. So all the way through from December to January, all the way through from December, January, all the way up to April, he was watching all these movies, watching what looks like religious movies. And is he given, are these his ratings? Is this his own rating? I guess it's his own rating, and then he's reviewed a couple. There's actually, no, there's a few of the, wait. The train station Jason. Fucking hell, he reviewed all of these. Should I go through all of these in another video? Should I do a separate video and go through all of these reviews? Because there's more than I thought. There's a bunch of these. Fuck off. Chainsaw Man. The visuals, the voice acting, the score, absolutely incredible. Mappa is doing an amazing job at capturing the essence of manga panels and bringing them to life. I'm so glad. It truly felt like a cinematic piece instead of a few episodes compiled together. Hashtag boom. The Chainsaw Man. Are you joking? Is this a funny little joke? He was at home watching This guy, man, this guy pisses me off more every single day. I cannot believe the first movie he reviewed on Letterboxd is A Chainsaw Man. It just gets more and more ridiculous. It just gets more and more ridiculous. I cried to blue people snorting powder around a bonfire, cinematic masterclass. So he's on here cracking jokes, right? I haven't seen Dave Franco in many projects. He was amazing in this. The acting from him. And here's what I'm going to do. I'll go through every single one of these in a separate video that I'll record for you later. But I'm actually in shock. Wake Up Dead Man. I bet you he said something crazy in one of these. For Judd, his arc through the movie was their relationship between him, his purpose, and his devotion to God. For the rest of the cast, it was the relationship between them, the church, and their devotion to Pastor. Are you fucking kidding me? Chainsaw Man, brother. That's the first movie he decided to review. What did he rate it? 4.5 stars for Chainsaw Man. Bro, I can't stand this guy. It's just endless evil. So he was watching movies right up until he was arrested. Literally, was that the day he was arrested? So they're saying that he was arrested on the 16th of that. So he was watching movies on Letterboxd. The last movie he watched was Look Back. He didn't actually write a review, but he gave it 5 stars. Look Back. What's this even about? Look Back 2024. Popular outgoing Fujino is celebrated by her classmates, one of her funny comics in the class newspaper. One day our teacher asked her to share the space with Kayomoto, a truant recluse whose beautiful artwork sparks a competitive fervor in Fujino. What starts as jealousy transforms when Fujino realizes their shared passion for drawing. It's just so weird. Everything about this case and everything that comes up is just weird. Project Hail Mary. He's going to need a Project Hail Mary for sure. The worst person in the world. Cold storage. Is this is this like, was he trying to hint at something? Cold storage. Gave it 3 stars. Something's not right about this. I honestly just feel like there's something really weird about this. Send help. He loved Marty Supreme. He watched a movie called David. I just can't believe that the top one, the first one that he put on there, that he actually reviewed, Rope, The Encounter, God's Not Dead, Do You Believe? I hope this isn't some other message. Gone Baby Gone, please give me a break. What an emotional roller coaster. Wow, with this being Ben Affleck's directorial debut, I didn't know what to expect, but with this film he does so many things. The world feels lived in, the characters have real depth and real flaws, which makes the seemingly real stakes drive the plot all the way through. Kudos, Ben. Eternity. Oh, it's so weird. This is so weird. All right, I'm going to go through all of those in another video, but oh my God, what an absolute horror show. Ugh, can't believe that. Can't believe that. So while it's not confirmed that he was lurking in these subreddits, it's highly likely, though, his profile was getting more badges, which can prove that he was at least active on Reddit. The depression is confirmed. Cooking himself, too. What a mess it was in the kitchen. I don't know what that's supposed to say. Oh, wow. His movie of Daddy-O, he's critiquing that the movie is misogynistic and has a lot of mansplaining, and he watched it on in 2026. What a hypocrite. Talking about God and the Bible, that's very interesting. I wonder if he was fixating on God because he wants to be forgiven for what he's done and feels completely powerless over the emotions he's feeling. I imagine the depression would be brought on by the obvious being on top of the world and knowing that you're going down to the bottom of the barrel eventually. Was the gospel album an idea pushed by his parents to pivot his career in a different direction? Was God and the Bible a cover to try and make himself appear like someone who really couldn't have done this? Or is he fixating on religion because he has nothing else that he can take to jail with him? I'll never understand why he called his Letterboxd account D4VD. Well, that's his stage name. But the fact he's hiding incognito and decides to go public on an account reviewing movies under his public name, that is insane. That is insane. Why would he do that? It says there was evidence that at one point he actually did spend a lot of time scrolling Reddit. He had an account that received several awards for scrolling. Whether he was looking at this subreddit or some other Doorcast subreddit is up for date. Do you get an award for scrolling? Why haven't I got an award for scrolling? I'm wondering if that was actually from him scrolling or since the authorities had his electronic devices. Maybe it's due to the authorities going through his accounts. You can buy new electronic devices. Even the act of unlocking a device, we know that's not what happened. For his best interest, he definitely locked himself in that house of his and had necessities delivered to his door with little interaction with the outside world. Besides being online, watching movies and reviewing them on Letterboxd, he played Fortnite quite often. I'm glad, not so really, that he knew better than to step outside, because either TMZ would have made headlines about it, or someone who knew about this case definitely would press his 5'5" midget ass about being a PDF. The honest answer is that the public knows almost nothing about his daily life during those 7 months. After the September search, he cancelled the tour, moved out of the Hollywood Hills rental, and virtually disappeared from public view. There are no reliably documented streams, interviews, or public appearances, or regular sightings of him between then and his arrest. Having a computer seized wouldn't stop him from owning another phone or device, so we can't assume that he spent 7 months completely offline. We just have no verified record of what he was doing privately, where he was living most of the time, or what friends remained around him. What is documented is that investigators continued building the case. Sources said he wasn't cooperating by November. His family fought grand jury subpoenas in January and February. Police arrested him at another Hollywood Hills residence in April. Anything beyond that, including claims he was hiding, gaming all day, or being abandoned by every friend, is currently speculation. This is the first time I've heard he wasn't complying with investigators. Wasn't he out of the country when Celeste's body was found? I remember hearing... This isn't true, so let's just not bother. He was in America on tour. He was going to go on an international tour, but it didn't end up happening. Most likely he bought new stuff to game on, watch information being exposed about the case, using as much drugs as he can, won't have that much access in prison, and live his last few moments trying to live life while his pathetic ass could. When they found Celeste, he knew he was screwed as F. I'm kind of amazed the amount of people who think you can't get drugs or high in prison. Prices are crazy high since it's hard to get them in, so prisons are absolutely flooded with drugs. He will possibly have easier access to drugs within prison than out. So he had very easy access when he wasn't in jail. In LA County Twin Towers jails, it's a bit harder and way more expensive to get drugs. He isn't allowed visitors except under supervision, camera and eyeball, and he'd need cash. Prison might eventually become easier for him to get certain drugs, but not right away. He'll be in maximum lockup if he's convicted of any of the felonies he's accused of. There are other forms of currency in prison besides money, though. If he survives long enough, prisoners hate anything to do with children. He'll be an immediate target. He says, yeah, unless it's a crooked CO officer, he's stuck in solitary for the moment. I think it may remain that way. Says, anyway, people saying laying low and staying high. So they're saying Ross talked about him having daily parties. Now, I don't think he was having daily parties every single day, but I basically talked about there were reports that was a party house and there were parties going on constantly. So I did cover that. It says, I know he was 21. If I was 21 and rich and soon to be locked up the rest of my life, I'm having parties and effing and getting drunk those entire 7 months. And people saying, might as well have fun because your happiness is done and your goose is cooked. All right. People hating on me. They're saying, I'm finding more and more he isn't credible. A lot of bias in this case. Most notable when it comes to Celeste's own family. We all know her parents knew of the relationship. Not proven. False information. So that's misinformation. And approved of it. That's not proven. Enabling it by signing off on the travel documents. We haven't got to the bottom of that yet. Going to hang out with him. Not true. Parents hanging out with him. Never happened. Misinformation. They even knew where he lived when they sent the cops there. That's not proven. The cause and effect is not proven at all. These weren't people fighting to keep their child from a predatory. These were extremely negligent parents. Let Traplaw tell it. You're a sick monster to criticize the parents, but the parents are a big reason for why we are where we are today. Children need protection, even if they're as strong-willed as Celeste. Cap. All right. I'm not saying he's the guy I go to for news, but I just believe I saw him saying they were having parties. Yes, I did say that because it was reported as elsewhere in this thread. Anyway, isolating himself and reminiscing about what he did, pretending to be locked up already so he's prepared. He was playing games, removing movies on Letterboxd. He was stalking his subreddits that were very obviously calling him out. He was the original moderator for the David sub, and then he removed all moderation. abilities and closed it down. We didn't close it down. It's still there, but you can't post. He was playing Fortnite, rating movies, and texting a couple people on IG, saying he should have hired a lawyer to discuss his exit plan, knowing if he was probably going to become a case. Lawyers should have been there every other day, not throwing parties. Very obviously an adolescent mindset. He definitely had a lawyer. If he didn't, he'd have been arrested way earlier. Said, isn't there proof Asia was partying with him in January? Ooh. I could have sworn someone made a post here a while ago. Says, I thought Asia, Celeste, and Vanessa were for years being hired to tour with David's band and also to stream with him and go to parties. Isn't that what Morgan Roth recruited them for? David and Asia partying in January 2025, not 2026. 2026 is different, okay? So, anyway. Oopsie. Probably just laying low at home. There was a report that came out when he first got arrested saying that he was throwing parties, but that's a lie made from TMZ or whatever news source posted it, because recently they interviewed neighbors and they all said they didn't know David lived there, or anyone for that matter. The only time there was a complaint was when the two girls were waiting for an Uber inside the gated community. I haven't heard that one. It says, you're thinking of the wrong house. He was at an actress's former mansion. Ooh. In between leaving tour and getting arrested. I get the irony, his first house was also the former home of an actress, so the second one. What were her friends / parents doing during this time? Oh yeah, what were her parents doing this time? Probably grieving their daughter that they just found out was murdered. I'm so curious why no one noticed she was gone and made a lot of noise about it, or is that we didn't hear, bro? Just leave them alone, bro. They're grieving their murdered daughter. You guys are fucking ghouls. You're evil. You guys are fucking evil. How long was the body in the trunk? 4 to 5 months. Took 7 months to get arrested. Being innocent, obviously. Pff, all right, r/David Yurts. I can't get over how unfathomably senseless and unnecessary this was. Seriously, why didn't he confide in anyone? Especially when, come on, they all knew. He could have gotten her parents' permission and married her. It would have been totally legal. No. What are we talking about? He could have still insisted she stay quiet to protect his image. She would have had an incentive to do so as his wife. So this subreddit is now condoning child marriage. All right. I've been checking info on this case. I can't understand why. I want it to have been someone else because it was such an extreme, stupid self-destruction course of action. I'm starting to think he did it because he's a freak who harbored homicidal fantasies. You're just coming around to that. Look, some of these people are just kids. All right. But like, bro, let's just grow up, bro. Traveling all over, maybe more victims. I'm sure he was reading every info there was about himself during that time. It's funny to think for people commenting here during that time, there's a good chance David would have read your comment. Facts. He probably watched a couple of my videos, probably hates me. He was out and about in LA. My friend saw him at Gallery on Sunset with a bunch of girls in November. I doubt that's true. Moving his assets to his mother's name. I thought he was on tour, drugs, shit ton of drugs, partying in a new house. He was still active on Snapchat. Traplaw Ross and Trapmore Ross explains the whole entire thing. It's sickening how he just lived his life and nothing ever happened. Gooning to gore. His arrest was delayed because apparently they needed more evidence. If they arrested him immediately, after a while, the case would have been closed without anything. Show me some proof of that. People saying touring. He wasn't touring. 2 days went by. They cancelled the tour. But anyway, look, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm gonna go away and look into this Letterboxd account. I'm gonna read all of the reviews in one long video, and we're gonna see if there's any clues there. Because I can't believe this guy was that active. Not commenting on any other platforms, but he was on Letterboxd going ham. Apparently, this is insane. So I'm gonna go dig into that. I'm gonna go look into that, and I'll update you guys on all of that in a separate video. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching this one, and I will see you in the next one. But yeah, it's just messed up, man. I can't believe this guy was writing Letterboxd reviews. I heard he was on there, but I didn't know that he had such an extensive review history. So I'll get to that in a moment. I'll see you there.